Welcome to another episode of On the House with Spartan Invest. I'm really excited today. We have a special guest, Liz Faircloth. She is joining us today. So she built InvestHER, which is a real working platform that helps women become stronger investors. She has years of hands-on experience growing the DeRosa Group portfolio, creating education and systems for investors, and leading a nationwide community focused on real results. Spartan Invest is actually sponsoring InvestHER Con this year. And so it makes sense to have her on, highlight someone who understands operations and scaling and what it actually takes to build a long-term investing business. Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Lindsay. Excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you and kind of how you got into this space. We'll get more into the weeds in a little bit, but just tell us a little bit more about you.
So I actually was getting my degree in social work, which is a very common degree when people get into real estate investing, right?
Right.
But I actually wanted to open my own practice. I always wanted to help people in their own world, their own stuff. And that's what I was going to school for. And right around the same time, my brother-in-law, who was the only entrepreneur I ever met that I knew, I was raised in a middle-class, hardworking family, and he handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was just about done with my graduate degree. And that, so many people say it, but that really, really got me thinking about my life and what do I want, and passive income, which I had never even thought about as a 22-year-old at the time. And so that was like the seed, I think, that was planted in my head. I ended up not getting my degree in social work. I'm sorry, I got my degree in social work. I ended up not getting a job, as a psychologist or anything like that. I ended up getting into corporate America. The one thing he said in that book that I thought, I was like, I'm going to do this, is you need to learn how to sell if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do that. So before I buy an investment property, maybe I should learn that skill. So I ended up getting a job in a management consulting company where we sold a personality assessment to companies to help them hire people, manage people, et cetera. So that, I think, was like the seed. And then a couple years later, my then boyfriend, now husband, bought our first property after years of kind of going to the local RIA group meetings, and I got him enrolled. I met him and I'm like, so what do you think about real estate investing? Read this book, play this game, cash flow. And so we, over a couple of years, really did a lot of studying. And then we got a loan from my father for $30,000. That was a big deal. My dad was a school teacher. My mom worked part-time. So $30,000 was a really, really big deal to my parents. So they trusted us and said, okay. We drew up an agreement. I think I gave him 6% interest, which was lovely. And so that gave us our start. It was a duplex outside of Philadelphia. And that was our first investment property in 2004. I'm dating myself, but that was our first property. And over the years grew a portfolio of a couple thousand units in 5 different states. So we do mostly syndication and get into larger properties. And I've done everything from ground up to new construction to a lot of different strategies. But that's my kind of real estate beginning, and then, scaling into large multifamily.
Yeah. So I hope Kiyosaki, so I'm sure he does, Kiyosaki knows that, like, how
the impact, right? That's why it was so meaningful.
Of that book,
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely just, and it's not like rental properties have not been around for centuries, right? Like
Absolutely.
That is just,
Absolutely.
they just have. But just what a profound impact that book had on people like you and me and just anyone in the real estate space. It really, most of the time, comes down to that book and understanding all of the benefits that you gain from real estate and really putting it in perspective and really showing the differences between, hey, this is the course everyone tells you to take. This is the course that I took, and look at the difference. And it's just, so I love hearing that.
And it also was like the first time I ever thought about, like, am I working for money? Or is money working for me? And I had that, I still think that way, right? Even if I'm trading my time for money, because it's not that you just never do that on any level, right? We're always, sometimes we're working in something, sometimes so we have to be really mindful, like, what hat do I have on And if ever like the pendulum swings too much, you're like, oh, okay, hold on. I need to be able to buy, build an asset that can work for me versus me working for it. So that just like thinking was huge for me. And it still continues as I grow my own businesses, right? And as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at just entrepreneurship in general, just assessing your time value, money, that what your time is worth, what money you can associate with that. Are you in the weeds? Are you working on the business, in the business? Are you working for the money? All of those questions can be gained from that book. So, so jumping into, tell us about InvestHER.
Yeah.
So, when how that got started, tell us a little bit about that program.
Yeah, I had nothing to do, Lindsay, and just like one day, I'm like, oh, I'm no. The best ideas are always when you're super busy and you're like, hold on.
Of course.
It was. I had just had my first child. I have 2 kids now, and I just had my first child. And I had just left my job, the one that I just shared about, the management consulting job. So we had finally built up enough passive income within our rental portfolio that I can take a step back and take a breather, if you will, and join my husband full time in our business, and start being a new mom and that whole world of new momhood. And on paper, Lindsay, it was interesting because I had everything that I had worked so hard for. To be honest, like those moments that you're like, I worked so hard for this, and I finally have it. And honestly, inside me, I felt really like empty, not empty completely, but something was missing. Something was missing for me. And so it was right around the same time I met my now business partner, Andressa. And then we'd get together as friends, as colleagues, and we started a women's mastermind in real estate and before InvestHER. And we both were supporting each other in our own businesses and our own lives. And then we started helping the women in our mastermind. We're like, I felt so much more fulfilled. I felt that there was like this piece of me that was missing in just the transactional piece of real estate. And I love real estate investing, but supporting other people in their growth is a whole other level, right? It's a whole other depth of, and that's probably my social worker background coming out. So we're like, okay, if we're having an impact on one another and the other women in our group, how cool would it be to be able to impact other women? And then simultaneously we were going to conferences. This was 8 years ago. And there was like no women speaking. There was very few women even at the conference. And the women that were at the conference were there with their husbands. Nothing wrong with that. However, they were not the ones that they came just like kind of like more as like observers, which is fine.
Right.
They weren't the ones like leading the business. So it was like, we need to create a space for women, a safe space for women to get the support that they need, who they want to lead their own businesses. They want to lead their own lives. They want to take control of their financial future. So that was the original premise. And we're like, we're not sure if there's any other women who would like to do this with, be part of a community. This was 8 years ago. And at the time there was nothing. And just like as entrepreneurs, if you want something, you think there might be a need, you create it, right? And you create it. And so that was the original idea. But the idea was always to serve women and taking control of their financial future. And now more than ever, right? That women have the skills, and now the money too, as the great wealth transfer has been happening, right? Women are inheriting and coming into contact with more and more money. And so that was the original premise. And we started a Facebook group and told our friends to join. And then over time, we have over 17,000 women in that group. InvestHER Con was an idea. We said, if we ever have a conference, we want to do it this way. We want to do it that way. We're going to be celebrating our 5th conference this coming June, which we're very proud of. Well, 7, including 2 with COVID, but in person. This will be our 5th. And we're really, creating online and offline events and opportunities for women to not just grow their portfolio, but to grow their life on their own terms. And that's really what we stand for. Because at the end of the day, Lindsay, and you know this too, there's not one way that you have to do this. And I do think there are a lot of groups out there that do teach this is the one way to wealth. And if you're not going to be this, if you're not going to build this empire, you're not going to be able to build anything. And so many women don't want to build an empire, to be honest with you. That's Absolutely. Like, nope, I don't want to do that. I just want to build something I'm proud of that can feed, that can build wealth for my family, and that can be something I leave on to my family and my kids and legacy.
So looking back kind of the 8 years ago, right when you started InvestHER, and you talked about kind of more the gap and that there weren't a lot of women. When
Yeah.
you started meeting with groups and focusing on women in the real estate space, what were they telling you that they needed at the time? Like what were some of, their, I guess maybe hesitations or some challenges? What were you hearing from them?
Well, that's one thing. And then the other side of it, I just want to say, was funny is that when we told people we're going to start a podcast and we're just going to interview women real estate investors, I had very smart colleagues of mine who were not women, but men saying I would run out of women to interview because there wasn't that many women who invested in real estate. And I'm like, I don't believe that. So that was and this wasn't like the 1950s. This was 8 years ago. I was told that. Right. So over time, I think the one thing we've done well on Justin and I is like listening, what is needed and what's in women's head that they may not be saying, but they're thinking. And so, and how do we support them in that journey? Right. And so a lot of the women that are in our community that have gravitated to our community, they have property, right? They've invested in real estate, and they're at the point where they're just swimming in too many things to do. So they're at the helm of it all, right? They're doing the bookkeeping. They're going to Home Depot. They're fill in the blank. So the need for like systems, processes, additional strategies like turnkey or I'm going to stop doing the active side. I want to do it a little more passively. That strategic need was what they were thinking. Like, how do I get to my goal, my financial goal for me and my family? Quite honestly, with the path of least resistance, that's what most people want. They're not like, oh my God, how do I do this and then kill myself for the next 10 years? No one signs up for that, right? I don't know about you, Lindsay, but I'm not like, I want to start a new business and I want to kill myself. Not in my 40s, maybe when I was in my 20s, but I'm in my 40s now. And a lot of the women in our community are also in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. They're not in this season of life where they're just like, yeah, I have nothing else to do. And I'm going to just spend 90 million hours doing this. I'm going to trade this job, this old job for now my new job. They want to create a life on their own terms. They want time freedom. They want financial freedom. They want to spend time with their family. Like that's what most people want. Right. So
absolutely.
So that was I don't want to say pain, but the challenge. And the challenge is also women could get shit done. Sorry that I said the S word. So what ends up happening is women do more of that. And then they do more of it. And then it's like a badge of honor. Because quite honestly, women can do it all. They don't want, they can, doesn't mean they should be doing it all. And I think that's the pain point that a lot of the women in our community are at. Okay, I want X dollars. I want to live this type of life. How do I get there in a way that works for my life strategically? So does that mean, do I go do this actively? Do I do this passively? Do I partner? Do I let go of some of the equity so that I can fill in the blank and go travel with my family, right? So it's those kinds of questions that are in their head versus like, what market should I invest in? Not that that's not important, Lindsay, but you can use ChatGPT to give you a top 10 list for 2026. What markets are hot? I mean, you don't need a community for that necessarily. But what do you need a community for? Partnership, blind spots, leadership, growing something that you're proud of that you can get out of your own way. Because we're all in our own way, to be honest, of our own next level. And that's the work that we do. It's not just the tactical real estate strategies. It's the, where do I want to be and what will help me get there?
So walk me through. So if, hey, I'm just dabbling in real estate maybe, and I'm trying to figure this out. I hear you on your podcast, want to get involved and stuff. What does that look like? Are you bringing women into this community, which I think it is great, and the blind spots, and you're absolutely right in that women can take on way more than they have to, and then you can get bogged down, and then there is the potential for burnout, and there's the potential for just, hey, okay, well, this doesn't work, and then you walk away from it, and you never want that option. So if you're the women coming to you that want to be a part of this community and you want to help, what does that look like? Or do you have coaches, mentors, and that kind of walk you through, like, these are some different options? Or tell me about what that really looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was saying this to someone, like, knowledge isn't enough now. right? Knowledge is not going to get me to the next level. Because quite honestly, a lot of people know what they need to do. Like if
Right.
I want to lose weight, I know how to lose weight. No
Yeah.
one
I
knows.
know that
No
I need
one,
to eat less calories than I intake, right?
yeah,
It's just it's a lot easier to say that than do it, right?
right, exactly. It's not like, oh my God, I've never thought about going to the gym. What a thought. Oh my God, you've just changed my life forever, right? It's not like it's that, but it's the knowing and the doing gap. So what
Mm-hmm.
we really lean into, the women that are coming to our community as well, they're on the journey of investing, the active, passive. But it's a woman who's looking to take control of her financial future. So what does that mean? That they are driven enough, they're smart enough that they're like, you know what? I have money to deploy. What's the right strategy for me? And then who do I need to talk to in this network that can give me some insight? It's not just people pushing whatever they have to the women, like, hey, come into our community and invest with me. Am I an active investor? Sure. But the community and the network exists to help women individually get to where they want to go. That's the number one goal. And that's the number one.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do that with trustworthy people that are peers of yours, that are mentors of yours. So yeah, we have a mentorship program called Strive. And it's for women who've done at least 5 to 10 deals, active in real estate, part-time or full-time. And they're at that point of their own growth that they want to grow their portfolio, but they know there's probably a path of least resistance that they just haven't hacked yet because they're using either all their own money, all their own time, all their own resources. And so they really want to grow a little more mindfully, a little more intentionally with other women. Some women end up partnering together that have joined, but it's about the network. It's about who knows who, so we can help each other. We can help them grow their portfolio. Women have made so much money within our community, and that makes me happy, right? Because it's the context versus it being like I'm at the center and everyone's going to come to me and Andressa and we're going to give them the secrets of investing in real estate. There are no secrets. And it takes a lot more of a village and versus it being like this one approach. So, but we do have mentors. We have a mentor who teaches about new construction. We have a mentor that teaches about raising capital. Like that's knowledge that's really important and helpful as you're growing. But it's about the network and being able to be in like-minded community where women are talking about big deals. And then they're talking about their kids or some stupid show that they watch on Netflix just to kind of turn off their head. Women love that, to be around other women who are in like this similar space that they can have multiple conversations with and be held accountable. Hey, you talked about this a year ago, hiring a VA. You're still talking about it, right? In a nice way, in a kind way. But that's the kind of work we do at Strive. It's really about helping women take control of growing that portfolio versus it being this prescribed strategy. And then in terms of like InvestHER our community, it's about serving women wherever they are on their journey, whether they're active or they're looking to be a little more passive. We have all women who come to us for, again, not just the knowledge, but the community of trustworthy people who are ultimately all trying to grow their wealth.
So how do you see your community growing in the new year? Like how kind of on the horizon, kind of what are some of your goals to continue to reach out to those women and maybe some that are getting stuck on their journey, or how do you envision the next year to 3 years?
Yeah, I love that question. The one thing we've implemented, it's a free tool I just want to mention, is called it's kind of like our assessment tool where women can kind of determine what kind of InvestHER they are. And what I love about it is it basically puts you into one of the 4 kind of parts of the journey. And then it gives you like an action plan. We have recorded over 500 episodes of our podcast. So we literally put together curated playlists depending on if you're new, if you're growing your portfolio, if you're just looking to be passive, right? Depending on where you are. So again, really curating the right knowledge and then community for where a woman is in her journey. Like that's the work to be done, because I don't really need to hear about a CRM if I've never invested in real estate. Well, you can argue that maybe because you can say, well, you should have a CRM in place, but there's certain things, Lindsay, right? You don't need to know. People are more worried. Yeah. They're more worried about what they're going to name their LLC versus getting leads in the door, right? So there's a lot of interesting things people focus on when they should be focused on other things. This assessment helps break that down into like 3 next steps. And so everything we're doing is like, okay, what are the next 3 steps versus like 25, because it could get overwhelming. Let's not get overwhelmed. Let's talk about the next 3 steps. So really giving that resource to other communities and people was something we're really excited about. And it's not just the stupid tests and assessments you take, and then you just give them your email and you get this stupid, no offense, thing back. And you're like, this is not helpful at all. Like, we created every action plan. It's an action plan and resources. So
wait, Liz, I'm so sorry. So essentially,
Yeah.
so when an investor comes to you and they say, hey, look, I've just bought my first one, I'm trying to figure this out based on the questions, then you send them kind of, okay, well, you're in this bucket, so I'm going to send you this podcast because it's going to talk about what those
Correct.
next 3 steps are based on where you are in your current real estate investing journey. I think that's fantastic. That's amazing, because they vary so much.
They do vary. And what's interesting about a lot of the women that we serve, and I know you know this because you guys do your market research heavily, right? You know your market inside and out to be able to sell turnkey properties, right? So many of the women buy property because it's close to home. And you ask them, what are the reasons you bought property 1, 2, and 3? They can't give you good reasons, right? And that's not uncommon at all, actually. It's actually very common. I live there. I heard it was a good real estate market. I mean, fill in the blank, right? There's a Target there. I mean, I've heard all kinds of answers, honestly. And so when you start to grow, that can't be the reason you invest in a market, right? For it's close to home. Not a good enough reason. Certainly an advantage, but that's when that market, really knowing your market inside and out, becomes really important when you're growing. Important when you're starting, sure, but you'd be shocked, the women who have a handful of properties don't have any good reason why they've invested where they've invested. So that kind of suggestions of like, are you clear on the market, the deal, the team, financing, like your core items, even to your point, Lindsay, you and I chatted about this on one of our calls. So many people think buying a buy and hold themselves is going to yield so much more of a return than it would if they bought a turnkey property. And that's not always the case, right? You could argue that that makes sense why you're doing it that way. Totally makes sense. For other people, or joining a syndication or a fund. So they need to look at all these different options to say, what works for me in my life? It's not prescribed. It's a journey. And so that's what the assessment helps people identify. I don't want to be doing all the doing. Well, then maybe you shouldn't be actively buying a property. Go lend your money or go buy a turkey or something.
Go buy a turkey, yes.
That makes more sense than to say, that's the only way. So the assessment's supposed to help open people's eyes, and it's automated in the sense of like your action plan, the playlist, everything's very, kind of like created in a very efficient way. It's not piecemeal. It's actually quite helpful in one swoop. Here's your action plan. Here's like the content that would be helpful. The other thing we're leaning into as well is that there's 2 things that we're really focused on: organizing curated high level events, and at the same time, launching an online platform. So our goal at InvestHER is to create the community so women could be connecting with each other. And like-minded women can be connecting with each other in person and online, and creating a safe space to do that. So that's really what we're focused on doing. We're launching a new platform so women can join and create hubs based on their geographical location to say, hey, I'm in Orlando, I'm here. That's how we have a national community. And that's how our meetups used to be. That structure was not working when we were doing it because they were all kind of being run a little differently. This is going to help create those hubs so the Minnesota people can get together, California, Southern California can get together, but they're connecting online too to say, hey, because again, what is real estate? Hyper local. So that we're excited about launching that. That'll be a very like low barrier to entry, less than a couple $100 a year, but the amount of like content and community building online will be tremendous. So really excited about that. And then on the other flip side is having curated high level events for women to really get connected to each other. In InvestHERCon being one of them, but also we're doing some more strategic events with our members as well as non-members to say, okay, let's mastermind together. Because a lot of the women have challenges and issues that they have no one to talk to about, right? Not even their spouse. When you say, who's in your support network? A lot of them are like, My mother. And nothing against your mother. I love my mother. I love her. I'll go to war for my mother, but I don't know if I run my entrepreneurial challenges too. She's never been an entrepreneur, so it's hard, right? So
Right.
that's what we're doing as well. We have a couple of events happening in February. We're doing one on partnerships in New York City. Then we're doing one in Scottsdale, where we're having our conference in March. So again, high-level women who are growing their portfolios want to be around other women like that. And so we're really, okay, where do we bring women together so they can support each other? And we have mentors there, mentors and peers, because you need them all. And resources like you guys.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, so the mentors, the attendees, but talk a little bit about kind of the sponsors and what you feel like is a good fit when you're looking at InvestHER Con.
Yeah.
Who are you looking for? I know Spartan Invest will be there to discuss. And I just, before you answer that, I just want to go really quick back to what you said in regards to the mindset. And I think that that's really very important, making sure that anybody that you're working with to grow a portfolio, because you're right, there is not one way and everyone is very different. And it's important to understand, unfortunately, doing this for almost 15 years. Wow, that seems so crazy to say that out loud, but for doing this for so long, I've worked with those investors who have thought like, okay, well, this is the way that I've got to do it, so I'm going to do it this way. And they wanted either to be way more hands-on, like they wanted to be active, and that's what they wanted to do. And so then if that's the case, then we are not the good fit.
Sure.
Right? We're not, because our entire business is to handle everything for you to where you don't do it and it's as passive as possible. And so I think getting that from your clients or from your community, getting that from the women that are coming to you is really beneficial for setting them up on which direction to even go if they're very brand new based on how involved they want to be. So I really like that. But anyway, sorry. Just wanted to comment on that. Going back to the sponsors for InvestHER Con, talk about kind of those partnerships and how you set those up.
Yeah. So when we launched InvestHER Con, and again, Jess and I would go to conferences. So every time we went to conferences prior, we're like, if we ever have a conference, these are the things we're going to do, and these are the things we're not going to do. And one frustration I always had every conference I went to was that I felt like sponsors were like the forgotten people, and they were not treated with the respect that I think they deserve, like partners. And so we're like, okay, if we ever have a conference and as we think about our partners and collaborators, they're the customer ultimately. You cannot put on a conference, especially at the resorts that we like to have conferences at Omnis, by attendee tickets. You just can't financially. And so, and you want companies there, you want sponsors there that actually can help solve the problems of the women or your attendees that are there. That's ultimately what the beautiful thing about a conference is when it's done right, is that you're actually meeting people's needs with the companies that are there. It's not the other way around, right? Or it's just a bunch of random companies that have nothing else to do. And they're like, this seems like a good place to be, right? You want resources for your attendees. And so we're very protective of the women that we serve, so much that we know their pains and challenges. And quite honestly, we also know what it might be a good fit for not every single woman, but for the women that are there as they're growing their portfolio. So we always take in this kind of like matchmaker type of approach or idea, not that we're matchmaking, but ultimately we're there to help women grow their portfolios by having resources to save them time and money. So that's our context from an education perspective. And then from a sponsor perspective, the women are excited to talk to the sponsors that are there at InvestHER Con. I think we've trained them that way. This will be our 5th one, but they're always excited. They're always like, okay, this is good. These people can help me on some level. Where am I in my journey? Is this a fit? Not a fit? They schedule calls. Like they're there to get business done. And I'm glad about that. I'm proud of that versus it. I mean, you can go to conferences and people are just like not even sure what conference they're at. That is the opposite of our conference, where women they're coming to get projects moved along, to get partnerships made, to actually grow their wealth with other women. It's more than networking. It's more than a conference, right? It's actually you're workshopping ideas that we have, so that's what I love about our conference. It's just this different buzz, it's a different energy. And what I love about our sponsors, and I'm really excited to have you guys there this year, is that you're there to bring resources and you're there to serve the women in growing their wealth. Obviously you make money when you sell a turnkey property. That's very clear. People know, okay, people are here to make money. That's not a bad thing at all. It's how the
world works.
It's how the world works, and it's how business works. And when you have companies that actually can solve problems for the women, genuinely solve problems, then it's like a win-win. And that's how we have companies apply. I personally speak to every single company that wants to be at InvestHER Con. It's not because I have nothing else to do. It's because we hold that so highly as a value set to ensure we have the right companies. I've had to disinvite companies. I've had to not invite companies back because of their way of being, and that's important to us. And that we women trust us for that. So that's our philosophy. Because if you can come to InvestHER Con with, this is my goal and what are ways to get there and what resources can help me, you're going to get that by the peers that are there, the sessions that you attend, the companies and the sponsors that are there. More like partners, right? Not just sponsors. So that's what we believe to be so valuable at an event that is curated, and we're very focused on what we're there to do. It's not this like, well, we're just going to spend the time chit-chatting. Women love to have fun, but we're there to get
information. We want to know, we want the information. We want it as detailed as possible so we can take and digest it and make the decision and move forward. And
correct.
So,
we don't have time to lollygag.
No, absolutely not. So you taking the time to ensure that the sponsors are there to actually solve a problem. I mean, I know your attendees must very much appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so tough question. If you've got somebody listening right now, or they've listened to your podcast or just a random podcast, and you had one piece of advice, if they're just kind of debating on, well, is this like an online community? Is this for me, or is this something I really need? I'm sure I can figure it out and just do it, which I know is probably a pretty common thought among women.
I've done that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how many times I've been like, you know what? I'm just going to figure it out and handle it. Got it. What do you say to them? What is the piece of advice that you would give them right now that would say like, hey, look, like we are here to help. We can help you grow this.
I think a mentor said this to me, and I'll say it to women. And I say it to myself. What got you here is not going to get you where you want to go. And so like the very mindset, the very way of being that has gotten you exactly where you are, isn't going to necessarily get you to that next level, whatever that next level is for you. And you have to define that next level, because the clearer you are with like, where do you want to be? I always say this. I had a woman's like, oh, should I buy a short-term rental? Or should I do a long-term rental? It's like asking, should I invest in this market or that market? Should I buy a turnkey or invest in a syndication? These are really important questions that are strategic you need to answer. It's really hard to answer those initially, though, without knowing where you want to be, like your North Star. And so for me, I'm always encouraging women, you have to figure out where you want to be. Paint the picture. What does success look like to you in 5 years? What does success look like to you? Not me, not what it says on HGTV, not for the, no offense, some of the people out there like, I got a Ferrari now. Like, okay, that's your success. What does success look like to you? And then how do you get there with the path of least resistance? And I don't know any other way to do it than surrounding myself with people that are steps ahead of me, that are on my level, or who I can help. That is the recipe that so many people use because it works. Whether it's InvestHER, whether it's another community, whether it's your local, fill in the blank. I love what we do InvestHER. We're not for everyone. Our community, how we do things, we're a little more like direct, a little more forthright. Let's talk about what needs to get talked about type of people. And we stand for women to do the same, to play in the arena. Not for everybody, to be honest with you, Lindsay, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
It's about finding a support system that will hold you to where you want to be, not where you are. And I know for me, when I've done the biggest growth in my life, I need support. I don't know how else to say that, whether it's whether it's a doctor, whether it's a friend that can show me something, whether it's a mastermind, whether it's just, seeing something with a different lens. It's hard to see all that yourself all the time.
Absolutely.
My biggest growth has come from other people identifying my blind spots. As hard as that is, because I like to think I don't have any, but I have tons. It's really hard to see your own blind spots. And so that's what I think is so meaningful. And then you're able to say, oh, there's another way to do this. That's easier, quicker. Why aren't I doing that? So to get around other people that want what you want or have what you want, and don't think about it all yourself. Figure it out all yourself.
That's great. That is so great. So if our listeners want to get a hold of you, want to learn more, where should they go?
Yeah, I highly recommend. We're obviously active in on Instagram and other social media venues, but I would honestly go to the real estate InvestHER, HER.com, and right on our homepage is this assessment that I'm speaking of. I want you to just get value immediately. If you literally unsubscribe from our email list afterwards, which I hope you don't, but even if that was the case, get some value for yourself. The action plans that we put together for each of the types are really helpful and really useful. And it's about taking action. Do one thing with what you get. But where you can get me ongoingly, I'm active in our Facebook group and obviously active on I'll be active on our online platform we're launching. So that's where I hang out. But yeah, in terms of taking a step forward, it's all about taking action. One thing I would highly recommend doing that for yourself and just listening to that one podcast, getting that one knowledge base.
Yeah. I mean, the assessment, and like you said, you can just unsubscribe, but you still get the information quickly. So you can just check it out. I think that's a great advice. Liz, thank you so much. I'm really excited to meet you guys next year.
Yes,
and we're recording in December, so it might launch actually in 2026. But really excited about InvestHER Con. Can't wait to be there. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And that's On the House with Spartan Invest.